not having been on the school board before January, would it be possible at a future session after the budget goes by to get a brief out on where we stand on those before they come up, or could I get some documentation on where we think we are in terms of the reauthorization and the authorization for those programs?
Yeah, now the reauthorization for PYP is actually March 14th and 15th. The June 16th is we wanted it completed before June. Okay. So we can definitely, though, have a team of people come and share with you about what that looks like. And they've done surveys, and there's quite a bit of prep work that just to get ready for the authorization. And it's an on-site visit. So they literally spend 2 days interviewing and, talking about how we're implementing PYP and giving us strengths, weaknesses. It's really a good kind of overview of where we are for PYP, and we get a lot of good feedback. But we can have them come and share with you before March 15th, before the 14th.
Thank you.
Same way for MYP.
The second question I had was, I noted you talked about priority 2.1 and reestablishing teacher tracking turnover data. You noted that you were going to produce the chart in Work Packet 5. Thank you very much for that. Does the chart talk at all about the process that is used to generate that data, or when we go through the work packet at the next budget meeting or the budget meeting after the next budget meeting, could we have a short discussion about the process used to generate that data?
Absolutely, and Lisa generates all of that, and she has individual interviews with each person we're small enough we can still do that, so she interviews every person that's leaving and actually has discussions with those people, but we can talk about that at the next work session.
We actually do an exit survey, and if they want to come in and talk to me, then they do. But I don't meet individually with everyone. But we do an exit survey that asks lots of questions, including what they want to do with their leave and things like that when they leave. Yes.
Thank you, Ms. High. Would it be possible to get a copy of not a filled-out survey, but just the survey form itself?
Sure.
Great, thank you.
Could I ask, what do we do with that information once we receive it?
It's a part of their personnel file. So
do we act on it? Do we, if there's a lot of people saying we're all leaving because of X, Y, or Z, or do we collect that information and then use it?
I mean, I usually reach out to them if they say they're unhappy for a reason for leaving. If it's, military relocation or staying home with the child, then I don't necessarily reach out. But if they say I'm unhappy or it's for money, then typically I go to the schools and have a conversation with them.
Okay. I was just wondering, too, if we then take that information and we collect it and then look at trends over time, or...
We can definitely do that, yes.
Thank you. And the last thing I just wanted to note was under priority 7.0, it says, define and adopt that the school board maintain a process for setting an annual priorities and staff work plan.
Yeah.
There have been, I know, some thoughts over time about trying to develop specific metrics that could inform that process, as opposed to, I know we have metrics right now, but looking for things outside of things like SOL test results. I would hope that we, going up to that, would have the staff think more about what that process might look like in terms of what metrics we would want to use to help drive the work plan. So while it's important to survey staff and survey board members, that we can look at results from somewhat objective data to inform where we need to put our resources for the next year.
Yeah, and this will be something that we'll probably have, at least one work session, probably more than that on this. I haven't even started on this yet, just so I know that that's something that the school board kind of wanted to get in writing, because it's something that we've done, but it didn't really show up anywhere. And when we start looking at that, like for this work plan that we have now, we started with the community visioning and, really having a room of 200 people, cross-section of the community, and brought in a professional consultant that actually led that for us to be able to gather what is it that's important to the community that we want to be focused on as a school board. So those are all the discussions that we'll have, as in what do we want that to look like going forward.
Okay. Other questions?
Yes. Priority 3.1. Could we get some? I know we talked about this IT assessment, IT audit, but could we get some more information on who's doing it and the extent of the work or what their background is? If that, it may not be something you provide today, but could we have that at some future date?
Sure.
Let's do, yeah, okay. And then I know I know you've moved from the paper system to automating stuff, but was outsourcing ever considered, or that's not something that is allowed?
We would not outsource payroll. I mean, we've looked at outsourcing different components like we've done with security. You know, it's worked really well for security, runs very cost-effective, and our model is much more efficient. Mr. Kimball and I are looking right now at 2 other areas of outsourcing, but not payroll, not central office.
All right. I mean, I ask because I've been in a position where I've outsourced payroll to a
Yeah.
Paychex or an ADP, and so I just wondered if
We could
it'd make your
certainly
life easier
Right.
if that was, because one, they're automated, but 2, then you send them a file and they take care of it and fill.
One of the aspects of school payroll, and I'll be very honest, I don't know that I know a school system that has outsourced payroll. And part of it is, we, on average, you know, we have over 500 employees that we pay, you know, every 2 weeks, but it's the other 200 some odd, because we actually have over 700 people that we employ. And it's all of the substitutes and the time cards that become so difficult on every 2 weeks. If it were just the teacher pay, that part would be pretty easy to outsource. It's the other component that's hard. And right now, we don't have a good system in place even for that, and that's why we're trying to automate how we're still calculating by hand timesheets like they did in the 80s. So, I mean, we have some work to do on just our timesheet component.
Because the time sheeting itself could be electronic.
Yes, it should be. And we're working on that right now. And I would say, Lisa, you probably, would you say 2 months maybe away?
That's what Sevi told me yesterday,
Yeah.
The other day, about 2 months away.
We're getting
There's
much
a
closer.
meeting, I want to say, in the next 2 weeks, beginning of March, there's a huge meeting, 2-day meeting and then they will be able to roll it out. I'm
And
not
that's
as
why it's
involved
in the
that
work
one.
plan with the date, because we need to get it done. And it's been a focus for us for the last really year and a half, and it's been a huge challenge, but we've really had all hands on deck this year to make sure it's in the work plan to ensure it gets done.
Okay. That was it?
If I could just, me too, on one thing Michael said. I certainly am not familiar with all the complexities of the payroll system of a school system, and I take your experience properly. I just, in my own personal experience, you know, payroll is one of those things that is almost going entirely to outsourcing, and there are developing capabilities. You know, rolling your own is becoming a less and less palatable thing to do. So it might be worth at least having someone take a look around and see if there are any new capabilities out there. You've probably already done that, but it's, I would urge a good look at that, because while you can sometimes pay a weekly fee, the ability to do it all electronically, particularly in a school system that focuses on 21st century learning, would be a useful thing to consider.
Yeah. Believe me. Central office is definitely behind everybody else. I mean, we know that. I mean,
Okay.
yeah. We did not put the resources in central office first. We put them with kids.
Yeah, it's the same.
Yeah.
It's just the allocation of resources. Do you have
Absolutely.
somebody in-house
Yeah.
you pay to do this, or do you outsource it and get it done sort
Right.
of a little more efficiently? But that's, yeah, okay.
Other
I
questions?
just had a question about I had 2 questions. One was the parent university workshops.
Okay.
Do you know what our participation rate was in those?
You know, they're all different. If you get a topic that everyone's interested in, I'd say the biggest group you kind of see is usually 20, maybe 24, and the smallest sometimes is like 2. I mean, it depends. And they do a pretty good job of tracking that throughout the year. Steve does a lot of them for us, who's our curriculum instructional resource teacher.
And do we then, do we record those and make them available to parents? Because I can see that a lot of people might not be able to make it, so if we put them on YouTube or recorded them, people might be able to take advantage of them.
He does quite a bit.
Or
I don't know how
reference them
many of the
again.
parent universities he's actually put out. He does a lot for teachers. I'm not sure about the parent university. I'd have to double check on that.
Because
You
the
know?
ones about
Yeah.
like the different programs that we use, it might be helpful to
Yeah.
record those, and then people could go back and reference them later if they're having a question about the technology.
Yeah.
And then one other question was on the course load. I was looking at, so if Heidi, I know one of our commenters mentioned that Heidi Lang has 150 students. I don't know what the numbers, but if it's 120 course load maximum, where does Heidi fall in that?
Which she doesn't.
She falls outside of that then?
Yeah.
So she could have any maximum number of
Yeah,
students?
and so could a band teacher. You know, if you
Okay.
have a band and you have 80 students in band, you're going to have 80 students in band. It really depends on structure. Gifted is a totally different animal, and when you look at how most, for instance, like in Arlington, where you have one gifted teacher per elementary, it comes down to, and a matter of fact, we were looking at a survey today where they had done, looking at Northern Virginia, and a lot of it depends on the kid's service to 1 hour, 30 minutes, 2 hours, 4 hours. It's not really the number of children that they have.
Other questions? I just had a question.
Dr.
with
Jones, I just got an email. Mount Daniel's visit for PYP is April. TJ and Mount Daniel are not the same week. So just
Thank
wanted
you
to
for that.
add that
Thank you.
correction. Yep. Thanks, Dave.
Dr. Jones, with respect to dual enrollment, how is dual enrollment going, and what's the preview of offerings in the future?
We're really excited about dual enrollment. We are trying to hire more staff that can teach a high school class and also teach a dual enroll class. So we have the flexibility to, what we really want is to be able to growth potential over the next couple of years is a student to stay primarily on our high school campus and be able to get their associate's degree if that's what they want. What you'll see reflected in the program of studies this year, I can't remember if that's come out yet, I don't think it has at George Mason, but they will actually have the plan where a student can do their certificate, which is their freshman year of college, and that actually aligns to our IB classes as well. If you get a certain score in an IB class, it'll count for one of the courses, and working closely with NOVA on that. So we're going to offer the whole slate, and that's our goal, is for a student that wants to be able to get their associate's degree. It's a good deal. Cost them absolutely nothing, and if they're going to stay in Virginia and go to college, it's transferable. So you know that you're guaranteed to have those courses go with you. And we see it as, truthfully, I think it's going to continue to grow once the community and our students understand it more. Right now, a lot of them are just taking eclectic. They might take an IB class, they might take a dual enrollment, they take a high C class. They're very eclectic right now. But I think we're going to have more students that are going to want the whole slate.
Okay, thank you. One other thing I would note, the addition of the translate function to the website, I think, has been a good step forward. With respect to Gifted and Talented in our communication program, it does seem we've been receiving a lot of questions about how that's structured. I apologize for coming late. I was doing senior night at the basketball game, but is there a plan for a communication program to explain a little bit more about how gifted and talented services are offered throughout the division?
Lisa, do you want to take that?
Well, at this point, we are starting to look at our local plan that we have to present to the state for next fall. So at this point, we're working with the GT specialist, and we'll be taking it, I think, February 20 is this month, to the GT Advisory Committee again. So I think it's in order to have a parent night, it would be best for us to have made some of the tweaks that we plan to make to the plan and present at that time what the plan will look like. But yes, we definitely do that, just like we did when we rolled over the new ACE program.
Okay, if I can add to that too, and I think, most of the parents, well, I'm going to say all the parents we've heard are from one building right now, and that's TJ. Because when you hit middle school and you're in high school, it's open enrollment. Any student that wants to take accelerated curriculum has that opportunity. The biggest issue we have at TJ right now is mathematics, which is not a gifted issue. It is a general education curriculum issue, and that children are not getting what they need on a daily basis in the general education environment. And the staff, my understanding is they were starting some heavy discussions today. I don't know if they actually were able to do that, but they're working on, what is that going to look like going into September to make sure kids are getting what they need in math in elementary. Because when 50% of your children are in the 93rd and higher percentile, they need extension every single day. It shouldn't be 1 hour a week.
Okay, thank you. And then one last question. At our meeting on Saturday, we saw some interesting numbers that I think we'll be looking at a little bit more in coming work sessions about English as a second language students, and we've seen some interesting spikes in certain numbers in certain buildings. Priority 1.3 talks about maintaining student growth on the WIDA with at least 90% of students making literacy targets for a full year of academic growth.